My name is David. Today I'm about 35 years old, but what I'm about to tell you happened long ago when I was just 22. It was the most painful, unforgettable chapter of my life. We were an ordinary family, not too rich, not too poor. My father, Richard, was a hard-working man. He ran a small clothing business, leaving home early in the morning and returning late at night. He wasn't building an empire. He was simply working day and night so his two sons and wife could live with dignity. My mother, Sarah, was a simple, God-fearing woman. She would always remind us, "My sons, money is not everything. The real wealth of a family is love." But perhaps life wanted to teach us that true tests begin when love and money are placed on the same scale. I had an elder brother, Michael. He was about 5 years older than me. Ever since childhood, people would compare us. He was stronger, more responsible, and always the one to help father in the shop. I, on the other hand, was quieter, more drawn toward books, and not too involved in the family business. To the outside world, Michael was the dependable son, while I was the one still figuring out life. Our family's peace was shaken the day father passed away. It was a road accident, sudden, cruel, and devastating. I still remember the sound of that phone call, the way mother's hands trembled when she heard the news. Overnight, our small family lost its pillar. After father's death, everything changed. Michael naturally stepped into the role of the breadwinner. He took control of the shop, dealt with suppliers, and tried to maintain the business. Mother was proud of him, and I was grateful. But deep inside, I could sense something else growing in him, an unspoken bitterness. He felt that he was carrying all the weight of the family, while I was only studying, dreaming, and living lightly. And perhaps he wasn't completely wrong. I was still young, still confused about my path. Mother tried to keep us together. Every night at dinner, she would tell us stories of father's honesty, his hard work, his sacrifices. She wanted us to remember that this family was built not on wealth, but on trust and love. But life is rarely that simple. Father had left behind some property, our house, the shop, and a piece of land on the edge of town. At first, we never thought about it. We were too busy grieving. But slowly the whispers began. Neighbors, relatives, even so-called family friends, they all had their opinions. Michael is the elder. He deserves more. David should get an equal share. That's fair. Those whispers became arguments. Those arguments became walls between brothers. I was just 22 then, and I couldn't imagine that the same house where father once brought us sweets, the same house where mother prayed for our unity, would now echo with anger and silence. This was only the beginning. None of us knew that greed, suspicion, and one terrible decision would soon tear our family apart. After father's death, life inside our house started to feel different. At first, it was just silence, long dinners where no one spoke, the sound of mother's quiet prayers in the corner, and Michael leaving early in the morning to handle the shop. But soon, silence turned into whispers, and whispers into arguments. It all began with the property papers. Father had left behind our home, the shop, and a small piece of land outside the town. I never thought much about it, but Michael did. One night, I overheard him talking to Mother in a raised voice. "Mom," he said, his voice tight with frustration, "I've been running the shop alone. I'm paying the bills, keeping this house together. David just sits with his books. Do you really think it's fair that he gets an equal share?" Mother's voice trembled, but it was firm. "Michael, your father worked for both of you. He never thought in terms of bigger or smaller shares. He always said, 'My sons will share everything equally.'" Michael sighed heavily, but I could see anger in his eyes. He felt burdened, and in his frustration, he began to see me as the problem. At that time, I was 22, young, inexperienced, and not ready for this battle. I wanted peace. I told him, "Michael, I don't care about the land or money. Keep it if you want. Father would want us to stay united, not fight." But those words didn't heal him. Instead, they made him feel as if I was being careless about something he was struggling so hard to hold on to. Soon, the relatives joined in. Uncles, cousins, neighbors, they all had opinions. Some whispered in Michael's ear, "You are the elder. You deserve more. Don't let David take what's rightfully yours." Others came to me and said, "Don't be naive, David. If you let go now, tomorrow you'll be left with nothing." This poison slowly spread in the house. One evening, Michael confronted me directly in front of Mother. His voice was sharp, his hands shaking with anger. "David, I've had enough. I've sacrificed everything for this family since Father's death. I will take the shop and the land. If you want, you can keep the house. That's fair enough." I was stunned. For a moment, I couldn't even find words. Mother broke down into tears, pleading, "Stop this, both of you. Your father's soul will not rest in peace, seeing his sons fight like this." But the truth is, by then, Michael's heart had hardened. He had convinced himself that he was the one carrying all the weight, and therefore he deserved the bigger share. And me? I was torn. I didn't want to lose my brother, but I also knew I couldn't live as if I had no rights. The land, the shop, the house, they weren't just properties. They were Father's sweat and sacrifice, his legacy. It was then, for the first time in my life, I realized how fragile family bonds can be when money enters the picture. The same brother with whom I played as a child, the same brother who once protected me from bullies, now looked at me as if I was his rival. The arguments kept growing louder. The house grew colder. And slowly, love was replaced by suspicion. And then came the day when everything broke apart. After that night, when Michael openly declared in front of our mother that he would take the shop and the land while leaving the house for me, something inside me broke forever, because it was not just a fight about property anymore, but a complete collapse of trust and love, the kind of collapse that leaves scars you carry for life. The days that followed were heavy with silence and bitterness. Michael became more distant, more stubborn, and though I kept telling him that I didn't care about money, that Father's legacy was about love and not about land, he no longer listened. Instead, he surrounded himself with relatives and neighbors who whispered in his ear that he was the elder, that he deserved more, and the poison of those words only hardened him further, while my mother cried herself to sleep night after night, whispering prayers into the darkness, begging God to save her sons from destroying each other. I still remember one morning when I went to the shop that had once been filled with Father's laughter, and Michael stood there with his back turned, his voice sharp as a knife when he said, "Leave, David. This is not your place anymore." And those words hit me harder than anything else in my life, because in that moment, I realized my brother no longer saw me as family. He saw me as a rival. Eventually, the arguments ended not with reconciliation, but with paperwork, cold, heartless documents that carried our names as signatures and drew a permanent line through the legacy of our father, giving Michael the shop and the land and leaving me with the house. And though I signed those papers with shaking hands, not out of agreement, but out of exhaustion, just to ease my mother's pain, I knew deep inside that something priceless had been lost forever. After that, Michael moved out completely, taking his share with him, and though I stayed with Mother, our home never again felt like a home. It became a shell of what it once was, and years went by in that silence, years in which I tried to rebuild myself, to study, to work, to create a life without depending on inheritance. And yet, no matter how successful I became, whenever I passed by the land that once belonged to Father, I could not help but see him in my imagination, standing there with pride, smiling at his two sons working together, not against each other. And that thought alone would bring tears to my eyes, reminding me that the true inheritance of a parent is not the house or the land or the shop, but the unity of his children. Today, as I narrate this story to you at the age of 35, I look back at that 22-year-old version of myself, and I wish I could tell him to fight harder for his brother, not for the property, but for the bond, because no wealth, no material gain, no signature on paper can replace the love between siblings. And if my words reach you, dear listener, then please remember this. Never let greed or ego come between you and your family, because property can be rebuilt. Money can be earned again. But once trust is broken, it rarely heals. And once love is lost, it leaves a hollow emptiness that no amount of wealth can ever fill. And before I close, let me say this. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think of your own family, then please show your support. Give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel for more such heartfelt stories. And most importantly, tell me in the comments where in the world you are watching from, because your words give me strength, your presence gives me hope, and together we can remind each other that love is the only true legacy worth protecting.